Hello, algebra students. Sorry I wasn't able to be there today, but as we talked about in class yesterday, I've had a few meetings this week, so we really don't want to get behind too far, so I'm going to go ahead and do this lesson on a video here so you have a chance to watch it. One of the big advantages here to this video lesson is if you miss something, if you get a little distracted for some reason, you have the rewind button. You can go back and watch something over again. So this resource is something you will be able to use and go back and watch again if you get to the worksheet and you realize you don't know how to do the homework. So let's go ahead and get started. Our first lesson today is going to be on tables and rules. And so when we talk about a table here, what we're talking about is what's called an input and an output table. In other words, there's a rule that takes you from the top value, which we call the input, to the bottom value, which is called the output. So if you look here, we're saying we went from 0 and got 3. In other words, we put in 1 and got out 4. Input 2, output 5. Input 3, output 6. Input 4, output 7. And then you see this n column over here. That's where we're going to say, what do you do to n to get to the bottom? In other words, what's the pattern to go from top to bottom? If you notice, from 0 to 3, 1 to 4, 2 to 5, 3 to 6, 4 to 7, that's always the top number n plus 3. So that's what we call the rule. The rule for this table is n plus 3. Because to go from the n, or the input, you add 3 to get the output. Let's look at our first problem that you'll see on your worksheets. The first type of problem we're going to look at here is where I give you a table of input values and I give you a rule and you need to come up with the output values. So remember what this tells us. We're going to plug 0 into a rule to figure out what's going to come out. In this case, the rule is 2n minus 1. Yesterday, we talked a lot about what that means in the English language. That means whatever n is, we're going to take it times 2 and subtract 1. So for our first part of our rule, we're saying, what if n is 0? If n is 0, we would then take 2 times 0 minus 1. 2 times 0 is 0, minus 1 is negative 1. So we put negative 1 in our output portion of our table underneath 0. Our next value is, we say, well, using that same rule, times 2 minus 1, what if n were 1? So we plug 1 in. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 1 is 1. From there, I'm not going to write out the steps, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to plug 2 into that rule. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 1 is 3. Then I'm going to plug 3 into that rule. 2 times 3 is 6, minus 1 is 5. Finally, if I plug 4 in, 2 times 4 is 8, minus 1 is 7. We're simply looking at a number pattern, but rather than looking at going across the top or across the bottom, we're saying, what do you do to the top to make the bottom? You take the top times 2 minus 1. Alright, so you'll have some tables to complete on your homework today. We're also going to have one other type of problem we'll look at in our homework for this first assignment. The other type of problem we're going to look at is going the other way. I gave you a completed input-output table. I plugged in 0 and got negative 2. I plugged in 1, got negative 1. Plugged in 2, got 0. So on and so on. I want to know, what is the rule? What did I do to the top to make the bottom? And you see this hint I have here at the bottom. Use 0 as your critical value. The reason we use 0 can be shown if we look back at our previous question. I had times 2 minus 1. So 0 is critical because if there's a multiplication, anything times 0 is going to be 0. So I know it goes from 0 to -1. That means my rule must end in -1. So let's see if we can apply that to this one. In this problem, we have 0 and a -2. So that means our rule is going to be n minus 2. And we're wondering, is there anything multiplied by n first? To check that, we go to one of the other numbers in the table. Let's pick 3 here. We check and see, does n minus 2 get me from 3 to 1? If I plug 3 in there, is 3 minus 2 1? Yes, it is. Is 4 minus 2 2? Yes, it is. Therefore, this is the rule for my table, and I'm done. Our last example is going to be a little bit more difficult, where we're going to have more than one step in our rule. So let's go ahead and look at that. Our final example, I look at here and I look at 0. 0 is my critical value. To go from 0 to 3, I know I obviously added 3 to n. Let me adjust that table there so that doesn't look so bad. And maybe I will be able to do that. This isn't doing exactly like I would like it to. There we go. I was able to fix my technical difficulties there. And so in order to go from 0 to 3, I know that I'm going to add 3 to n. The question becomes, does that work for the other numbers? Is 1 plus 3 7? 2 plus 3 11? That doesn't work. But I know the plus 3 is right for my 0, for my critical value. In order to figure out what else is being done here, I need to work the problem backwards. I know I took 1 times something and added 3 to get 7. I knew I took 2 times something and added 3 to get 11. Some of you can just see what that multiplication is. Most of you are going to have to use this trick. I know I added 3 to get to 11. So to figure out what I multiplied by, I'm going to minus 3. 11 minus 3 is 8. So then I say 2 times what is 8? That answer is 4. And so as you can see, my technical difficulties are back. But we're just going to go ahead and leave it like that. My rule is take n times 4 and add 3. Now I go back and double check if that works for all of them. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 is 19. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So again, if you did not quite follow that, I got my plus 3 from 0. When the input was 0, the output was 3, so I know it ended in plus 3 because 4 times 0 is going to be 0. In order to get the 4, I need to minus 3 from one of these bottom values. Like if I would minus 3 from 7, it would become 4. So then I say 1 times what is 4? Well, 1 times 4. So my rule is times 4 plus 3. That's writing rules. Some of these are going to be simple and some are going to be pretty challenging and difficult. Please give it your best effort, and we'll go over this on Monday when I'm back with you. All right, good luck. Hopefully we're able to do this on our own.